So there's a famous question regarding Hanukkah. What's the question? So let's just get some basics here. You all know the story. The story was that the Greeks had occupied Israel, began with Alexander the Great, and then continued. And there was an uprising led by one family, one man and his 5 sons, Matisyahu and his sons, known as the Maccabees. Maccabee is an acronym. Mem Chaf Beis Yud stands for their rallying cry, Micha Moicha Ba'elim Hashem, who is like you amongst the mighty of God. It's part of our daily prayers. We say just before the Amidah every morning. Look out for it. Just before we start. So that was their rallying cry. It also, Maccabee means a hammer. It also means a hammer. So smash the enemy. God smashes all enemies. So they drove the Greeks out. Just how do you make someone an administrator on an iPhone? Somebody knows? You're not iPhone savvy. Okay. So they drove them out and then they entered the temple. Now, the word Chanukah means to rededicate or dedicate. They're rededicating the holy temple, which had been defiled by the Greeks. They defile it by touching the sacred objects. They convey a degree of impurity. The laws are complex, but it's a spiritual defilement. The word Chanukah also, chinuch is a common word. Chinuch is education. Chinuch. Because to educate a child is to dedicate them upon a certain path. So the word Chanukah, which means to dedicate the temple now to be the house of God that had been defiled, the same word exactly we use in educating a child, dedicating a child on the path of the right path of the service of God and our people and so on. The word Chanukah also can break down to 2 words. Chanukah. They rested. Ka is Chaf Hey 25 on the 25th of the month. Chanukah starts tomorrow, day 24. Tomorrow's 25. They rested after the battle and the enemy abandoning Israel. They rested on the 25th. So that's also hinted to in the name Chanukah. But the basic name is Chinuch, to dedicate. So the basic question is this. So they want to begin using the temple again in all of its various services. One of which is the lighting of the menorah daily towards evening before sundown. Now, to do so, you have to have pure oil, not contaminated. The Greeks said contaminated, touched. There's a special room that stored the oil, chamber. This is pure, highest grade olive oil. And it had been contaminated. And they searched and they found there was one small cruse of oil, seal unbroken, the seal of the high priest, no less, the Kohen Gadol. And they have some oil. The problem is it's only enough for one night, okay? So the light one night, what's the problem? Make new oil. It doesn't take long to squeeze an olive and get oil. It takes 8 seconds, not 8 days. So the problem was 2 things. Either because of the war and devastation, the olive trees had been destroyed and the olive trees that remained, certainly the good quality, were a 4-day ride away. So 4 days there, 4 days back. It would take another 8 days. to get new oil. But the other consideration basically is that everybody was ritually themselves. All the Jews were ritually impure. The greatest form of impurity is a dead body, being under the same, even under the same canopy, the same roof. At the time of war and devastation, the Jews were killed in large numbers. Everybody was impure. Now, to undergo the purification process, which doesn't exist nowadays, it will when Mashiach comes again, is a shiva, 7 days, and requires, it's elaborate, the ashes of the red heifer immersing in a mikveh, bottom line, 7 days. So before they themselves, any oil that they would touch, before 7 days, they'd contaminate, but nothing's achieved. So this oil miracle lasts 8 days for them to get new oil, either combination of both, the distance and the fact that they can't produce it. Now, that's the story. So we celebrate the miracle that this small flask of oil that was only enough for one night burns 8 nights. There are myriads of questions that need to be answered, starting with, but how did they not contaminate the oil that they found by touching it? I just said they can't produce new oil because they're contaminated. So now you can contaminate this one. Okay, so the answer to that is they didn't touch it directly. If they would take a utensil, like a spoon or a plier or something, that wouldn't help. They contaminate the utensil, that in turn will contaminate the oil. But the law is something which is not a utensil, just a raw, like piece of wood, does not contract ritual impurity. To contract impurity, it's got to be functional. It's just a piece of wood. So 2 pieces of natural wood that they held because they broke off the seal and poured it in. Okay, this is technical, somewhat like what happened. But there is a host number of questions. We'll start today, we'll continue tomorrow. The first question is, the Greeks were such gentlemen, why did they contaminate them? Why did they just pour it out? The Romans, hundreds of years later, and the Babylonians before them, were not such gentlemen. The Babylonians destroyed the temple, that's Tisha B'Av. On the same day, the Romans destroyed the temple. The Greeks didn't destroy the temple. Everything was intact. They put their art and their idols there. But the menorah, nothing was taken. Nothing was stolen, nothing was taken, contaminated. Why? So the answer to that lies at the core of the whole struggle. The struggle with the Greeks was not initially a physical struggle. They did not seek to oppress the Jews. They sought to enlighten them. They wanted the Jews to modernize and to embrace Greek philosophy and culture with a Jewish orientation. That was fine. As far as the Greeks were concerned, the temple was an incredible piece of art, and the menorah likewise, and all of the other, they worshipped art, the body, physical nature. So they were saying, like, light your menorah. It's, put the oil under a microscope. It's the same oil. This whole spiritual dimension, faith in God, that was the war. In other words, the Greeks, this was the clash of cultures. The Greeks said that everything in the end can be explained rationally. Everything. We don't even mind if you worship God, as long as your God is a rational God. In other words, he's a super intelligence. You look at the world, you see design, it points to intelligent designer. No problem with that. So you must be thinking, well, they're right. Like, what's the problem? So let me just, before I answer, I'm going to go even deeper. The Greeks had no problem with fulfilling those mitzvahs that made sense. They even had no problem with fulfilling mitzvahs that we don't understand, as long as you believe there's a good reason. That's okay too. That's fine, as long as it comes down to reason and logic, because at the end of the day, everything can be explained. What do we say? No. God's beyond reason and logic. He's beyond intelligent design. He's beyond infinite. He's not a creator. He's not hardwired this divine intelligence to produce this complex world we haven't begun to understand. Just by the way, the one part of the world, the component of the world that we understand the least about is the human brain. Science recognizes, I don't know how many thousands of various components and interaction. We're just seeing it works, but how it works is an absolute mystery. Remains. But science will unravel it one day. Will unravel it. And Judaism says we might well, but it doesn't end there. God is not the supreme intelligence that produced this complex world. He's beyond that. He decided to also create for his purpose, but he's beyond creator. We say the word infinite. It's beyond even infinite, because infinite's already description, not direct, indirect, beyond finite. It also means beyond, beyond. It's a good start, but God's beyond, beyond. And that was their war. In other words, the Greeks said, Judaism will not last forever. It can't be forever. It has to adapt to the changes in times. Nothing's forever. Nature evolves. They would be shocked that we're putting on, they wouldn't believe it. You're putting on film, the same film that they put onto they would have said then that's absolutely impossible. But that expresses the eternity, the infinite, beyond infinite eternity, sanctity, holiness of Judaism. That's the essence. In other words, when we do mitzvahs that make sense, our real motivation is not the logic, not because God, the infinite God, commanded it and it's sacred. It's dressed up in logic, and that's precious, and God wants that. It's beautiful packaging, but the essence of it is beyond all logic. It's divine, godly, and eternal. The essence of tzedakah, even the most logical mitzvahs, honoring parents, not killing, the core of it is divine. It's not simply a moral system. It's divinity invested in a moral system. It's not good, it's godly. Godly invested in goodness. That was a great battle. So therefore, they didn't contaminate the oil. It's a beautiful ritual, illumination, enlightenment. Oil represents intellect. Oil floats on top of all liquids. Intellect is the highest human conscious faculty. Oil produces light and warmth. Intellect illuminates. And we say enlightenment. We actually use that term to describe, someone who's very wise. He's enlightened. So enlightenment is wonderful. Like menorah. But for the Jew, it's not intellectual enlightenment. It's godly enlightenment. It's sacred oil. Our mission is to bring sanctity to the world, holiness to the world. And as we keep on saying lately, the world is saying this to us. You just don't fit. You don't belong. They don't know what it is because we've been denying it. And so they just keep on hurling the accusation. If we all start embracing, you're right. The Jew is rooted in godliness and we're otherworldly. And we're here to bring sanctity. They'll understand us, what they're feeling. That we make them nervous because we don't fit in. We don't, and all the laws that apply to all the nations of the world, logic, conquest, history, that doesn't apply to the Jews because it's true. That's not our essence. It's godly and divine. So that's the reason that they didn't contaminate the oil. And therein lies the whole struggle. Again, this great spiritual struggle. Reason versus there's beyond reason. Reason is a creation of God. God is utterly beyond. And that explains another question. A very famous question. And the question I'm going to tell you now, there's a book, never saw it, but the book that has 100 answers to this one question. There was some famous rabbi that every year, Chanukah, would give another answer. What's the famous question? Here it is. All right, so we're celebrating Chanukah because of the miracle of the oil. We explained at a very literal level. It would take 7 more days to get. They found it. They need now 7 days of purity or travel, whatever this for, whatever the explanation. So God made the oil last, the pure oil, till they could. Just sorry, I'm getting. So God makes the miracle and it lasts till they can produce new oil. Okay, so here's the famous question. Now, wait a second. There was enough oil for one day. So how long was the miracle? 7 days. It wasn't an 8-day miracle. So 7-day miracles. If we're celebrating the miracle of Hanukkah, it should be 7 days, not 8 days. So I told you there's 100 answers. Like one answer as simple as day one that they found the oil. That's a miracle. Or day one that the Greeks overlooked it and didn't contaminate it. So that's day one. And the other 7 days. And then I'm not going to go into now. We have this previous years. There's another whole, it's a whole really subject in itself to explain the miracle. Like what happened. If you were to be there and watch it, what exactly happened? In general, there's two ways to understand it. One is the miracle in the physical increase of oil. It burned down the next day. There's new oil in the cups of the menorah. Or did it burn down 8 times slower than ordinary oil, so it lasted? Now, according to that solution, you got our answer. Because the first day, if you looked at the oil, it's burning down 8 times slower than ordinary oil. So the miracle is manifest even day one. That's another suggestion. Again, that's 2 out of 98. So there's a lot of answers to this question. But I want to answer based on what we just discussed now this morning. So we were saying that the whole battle was this great spiritual battle. What is Judaism? For the Greeks, if Judaism is a culture, a philosophy, a morality, that's wonderful. And even again, the God that you worship is this divine, intelligent, super intelligent being, all good. The war is no, Judaism is not just simply morality and wisdom and so on, although it is. So it's all of what happened yesterday in Sydney, you know that.
Yeah.
So we were just saying that, yeah. So that's the and the victory is sanctity, eternity, and so on. And number 8 is symbolic of that. 7 represents nature, 7 days of the week, nature. And the parallel, by the way, since we're all made in the image of God, everything that God does is reflecting human being. There's 7 emotions to the heart, 7 natural emotions. The idea of the hand tefillin, you wind 7 times facing the heart. The idea is that we should be the masters and direct our emotions in constructive, healthy ways. There's healthy love, there's unhealthy love. There's healthy fear, and there's unhealthy fear, and so on. So that's the 7. But 8 represents the infinite, beyond nature. Interestingly, in math, the infinite symbol is the 8 on its side. I don't know the historical origin of that, but that's just the way it is, you know. So that's why 8 days, because the whole celebration of Hanukkah is we're celebrating that there's more than just logic. It's not. It doesn't just come down to numbers, etc. It's beyond an infinite. God is beyond an infinite. And therefore, that's one of the answers why it's an 8 day celebration. In other words, even nature at its core is beyond nature. Now, the truth is, quantum physics is seeing this. I don't claim to be a physicist, and so you're not a quantum physicist. I'm just parroting what I heard from professors' lectures that I heard. Just very simply, quantum physics now sees that before quantum physics, so was the Greek attitude. It's all figured out. We can all understand. It's all predictable patterns, etc. But quantum physics has discovered that at the subatomic level, all life is chaos. It's chaotic. It's not orderly. And they have no explanation how it goes from chaos to order on the manifested level. We had a big lecture by Professor Brown. I don't know if you know where he is, local. Professor Brown is a local Chabad chassid. God bless him with long life. He's already an elderly gentleman already. Professor of neuroendocrinology at McGill. He became observant in his teens and a big scholar, a brilliant, brilliant man. He spoke on MTC a number of years ago. That's where I first heard about this idea and then explored it subsequently. So quantum physics, they call it a force. There's no explanation how you go from chaos to order on the manifested level. of solids, gas, and liquids. Everything has its order. But you get down to the subatomic level. Atomic level, it's a nice pattern. It's very clear. But get into the depth of that. And furthermore, they discovered, just interesting thing. This is already now 30 years old. They've gone beyond that already. Till quantum physics, the belief was there's nothing faster than the speed of light. There cannot be. The speed of light is 186,000 miles per second, nothing faster. But when you turn the light on, it takes that time for it to illuminate the room. It's an instant, 186,000 miles per second. That's the fastest. But then they discovered in quantum physics that they took these subatomic particles, and how they did it, they split them and separated them by one end of the world to the other. Now, they were gyrating, when they were together, they were gyrating in a certain way. When they manipulated one particle, instantaneously the other one responded and started gyrating, and much faster than light, pure energy, could emit the signal. This changed, so it changes that. What is this? There's something beyond space. Time is beyond, it was instant, beyond time. So I'm just giving you, we're not physicists, but you get a sense of that even science before Mashiach comes. This is all a big prophecy. One of the great prophecies in the Zohar, which is the foundation of Chabad in many ways, is before Mashiach comes, there'll be a great explosion of scientific knowledge and spiritual knowledge, Hasidus, that will merge and prepare the world for Mashiach, when we will know God and all the mysteries of life. So the Greeks should, today, if they were honest, wouldn't have such a big war. Hey, life is mysterious. It's not, we're seeing it doesn't come down to, we can figure it all out. But bottom line, conclusion, what's the miracle of Chanukah? What's the story? And what's the message? We light the menorah on, unlike the Shabbos candles, for example, they're lit inside the house. The idea of the Shabbos candle is to bring light to the home, to sit at your Shabbos table and enjoy your meal. Eating food in the dark is not exactly a pleasurable experience. But with light, seeing what you eat is a big part of the food experience, presentation, food. That's one of the reasons for Shabbos candles. The other reason is that people shouldn't stumble, and that will create friction in the home. This is before electricity, right? So the sages said you must light candles before so they still continue to burn throughout the whole night, at least during your meal, so that you have a tranquil and enjoyable Shabbos meal. There's a function, a purpose to it. But the light of the menorah, it's facing the street, because the light of the menorah is not the home, not inside, outside. We have to illuminate the world with this message. Exactly. That was the whole war. The message that we as Jews represent, God himself, is not an arrogant thing. It's the most humbling, because we're nothing. We're just here to convey sanctity and holiness to the world. That is our mission. Chanukah never spoke stronger than it does now, especially what happened in Sydney. We will not cower. We will bring more light to the world. We will stand even stronger and more unified, prouder, with greater joy, with our mission to bring holiness to the world. And what's our message? Our message to the world is every human being should know you were made by God, and therefore there is sanctity to your life. It's infinitely precious, and every human life is infinitely precious. And God wants a relationship with you here in this world. And as you heard me say, our message to Christianity, we don't have to say it in black and white, but just the message is the body is not the enemy. You're not born in sin. God wants a relationship with you here in this world to live a life of sanctity here. Souls in bodies. And the message to Islam is the body is not dispensable. It's not your ticket to the afterlife. It's about heaven on earth. They got it from us, but they distorted it. Consider this. Consider this. The Torah, from beginning to end, you read it, from Bereshis to the end of the 5 books. There's not one mention of the afterlife. Compare this to every other, religious tract. That's all it is the afterlife. Christianity, Islam, every faith. You do this to earn a place there. When the Torah says heaven, it means the sky. Of course, there's allusions. And the Talmud and the Midrash, the super commentaries are replete with the afterlife of heaven, paradise, Gan Eden. but not the primary text. How could that be? Which God dictated? Is that not the whole point of religion, is to earn a place in the afterlife? The answer is no. God's purpose is heaven on earth, here, in the body, which is why the ultimate promise of God is that every soul is destined to come back to the body healed, perfected, resurrected. We're going to say it now in the Amidah, just before the Kedusha. Machaya HaMesim. That's the ultimate of Judaism, heaven on earth. Heaven is temporary, where the souls go and enjoy reap the benefit of the mitzvahs and what children do for them, and continues and helps them in their height. But that's still not the ultimate. The ultimate is here. And I'll conclude with, again, science has helped us greatly appreciate that, because the idea of the resurrection was like, what? The body's gone, dead, finished. But now science, and this is actually, the Torah says again that science will help, has made us realize the body doesn't disappear. Nothing does. Human beings, you can't destroy or create anything. You can't make out of nothing, and you can't make things fundamentally disappear. It's break down or combine. So the basic particles of the body are there, wherever they are. Zap them together, boom, they come together, the DNA, and the body's perfected. How it's going to look, I don't know, we'll see. But it isn't as fantastic as in just beyond all understanding as it is now. Again, thanks to contemporary science. The atom doesn't disappear when you split it. It unleashes the incredible energy. It can destroy cities. Tiniest particle invisible to the eye. Nothing disappears. Only God creates out of nothing or could make things disappear. We combine and break down. So God's ultimate promise is souls in the body, here, heaven on earth. And that's our message. You count. You're made in God's image. God wants relationship with you here in this world. Goodness, kindness, suffused with sanctity. Because if it's just goodness and kindness based on my morality, then you can come to the conclusion, like the Nazis did, it's good and kind for the world to get rid of the Jews, or the gypsies, or the blacks. If it's a logic, who knows where that ends up? Because there's agendas and agendas, and you can justify anything. When logic is rooted in sanctity, God said, and it's holy, that's forever, that's true, that's lasting. That's a great benefit of the fusion of sanctity and logic. So that, in a nutshell, is what Chanukah is all about. God willing, next week we'll explore further dimensions in the story of Chanukah. Thanks for joining, guys. Happy Chanukah, Mashiach now.
Happy Hanukkah. Thank you.
Tragedies.